stand up straight at the foot of your love. I lift my shirt up. I was carried to Ohio in a swarm of bees.
Alright, section 1.1 is on metric systems. So we're going to learn all about International System of Units, which are also called SI units. Now, you're probably wondering, well, maybe not, but you might wonder, if it's International I, System S, why is it SI if it's International System? Shouldn't it be IS System, not SI? Wow, what's going on there? Well, the reason is because it's actually named after, SI is named after the Système International d'Unité, which is French. That's right, it's French. So that's the reason it's SI. The SI units, or the metric system, was published in 1960. I mean, it took a long time. There's ideas about it, more than 100 years ago, but it finally was formalized, I guess, in 1960. Canada adopted it in 1976. Which actually shocked me when I found this out, because I was born in 1972, which means it didn't happen until after I was born. Gosh, I'm old. I guess this is why I remember when I was in elementary school, adults would always be saying to me, "Are you learning that metric system in school?" And I never figured out, why does everyone care so much about the metric system? And I guess it's because for adults that was really weird for us kids to be learning the metric system, because they'd learned the other system, which is called the imperial system. Okay, the good thing about the metric system, and you'll see this in this course, is that it's really easy to convert from one unit to another. Everything's based on the number of 10. So there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, and there's 100 centimeters in a meter. Everything's based on tens, hundreds, thousands, powers of 10. That's not the case in the imperial system. There you have things like there is 12 inches in a foot, and you have all these random numbers that you have to try to memorize, and it's much more difficult for most people. The other system, the imperial, is still used. I thought of three main places it's still used. One is in the construction industry. For example, if you ever do any building or in your shop class and at school, you probably hear about 2x4s. Those are 2 inches by 4 inches, and that's an imperial measurement. Most things in the construction industry, I think, are measured in imperial. Another place is when we talk about heights and weights. Most of us don't go around saying I'm 142 centimeters tall. We say I'm 6 feet tall or whatever. You don't go and say I'm 52 kilograms. You say I'm 130 pounds or whatever. If you were to go to Europe, it would be this way. For some of you people who are from Europe, you probably know this already. People do say things like I'm 1.72 meters tall and my weight is 63 kilograms. But in North America, Canada, we usually give our heights and weights in the imperial system. And there's 3 countries that still insist. There's only 3 in the whole world that still insist in using imperial. I bet you know one of them. Burma, Liberia, kind of small, not very influential countries. And then there's this one that you might have heard before, the good old US of A. Those stubborn Americans just refuse to switch over to metric, and it's kind of too bad because it really does make a lot more logical sense than the imperial system. Alright, referent. What is a referent? A referent is an object that can be used or thought of when estimating lengths. It doesn't just have to be lengths, it could also be for weights or any measure. So for example, if someone said to you, how many meters tall are you? If you have no sense of how big a meter is, you cannot give any answer. You might be, I don't know, am I 100 meters tall? Am I 0.1 meters tall? I don't know. But if you have an object that you can think of that's exactly a meter tall, then all you have to do is think of, well, how many of those are there in me? So let me give you an example. We're going to look at lengths in this course mostly, and the 4 major units that we need to worry about are the millimeter, the centimeter. The most important of all is the meter, because it's all based on the meter, and the kilometer. So a millimeter is for very, very small measurements, tiny distances. The way you show a millimeter, or the way you can abbreviate it, is little m, millimeter. And a referent for I mean, there could be all sorts of different reference for millimeter, but a possible referent is the thickness of a dime. Now, that's not exactly how thick a dime is. A dime isn't exactly 1 millimeter. I think, well, I don't think, I looked it up. It's 1.22 millimeters, but it's close enough that if someone asked you, how many millimeters thick is your phone? You could think to yourself, I don't know. Well, how many dimes could I stack and it would make the thickness of my phone? Maybe 8? That's just my guess. So I would guess that it's 8 millimeters. So the dime in this case is your referent. You're using that to estimate thickness. Centimeter is represented with cm. And a centimeter is used for small distances. These tiny distances, small distances, of course, these are subjective terms, but that's what I went with. A referent for centimeters could be the width of a finger. So it doesn't have to be a width of a finger. There's lots of things you could use, but that's one that I usually think of. So if someone asks me, how long's the eraser that you're using? Well, I could think to myself, well, how many of my pointer finger widths, not lengths, how many of the widths of my fingers could I put side by side on that eraser? And maybe I could get about 5 or 6. So I would say that eraser is about 5 or 6 centimeters. Am I exactly right? No, but it's a pretty good estimate. Okay, meter is the most important one. Everything, as you can tell, is based on the meter. Millimeter, centimeter, kilometer. So a meter is the distance traveled by light in 299,792,458 of a second. That's not very long. That's how far light travels in this amount of time. A tiny, tiny fraction of a second. And that would be in a vacuum, by the way, if you really want to get picky about it. Obviously, that's not the way that we think of a meter. If someone said to you, how many meters tall are you? You're not going to say, well, how long would it take light to travel along the length of my body? You're not going to do that. So you need a referent for it. A good referent, I know this sounds really stupid, but a good referent for a meter is a meter stick. It's exactly 1 meter, and you know what a meter stick looks like. I swing them around at the front of the class and bash people over the head with them and stuff, but don't tell your parents, okay? That's probably a little upsetting to them. And a baseball bat is also approximately 1 meter. Want to know how many meters the classroom is wide? Think of how many meter sticks you could slap down side by side and get your estimate. Kilometer is for big distances. It could even be enormous distances, like distances between stars and stuff like that is all in kilometers. By the way, meters is just m for meters, and kilometers is km. And a referent for kilometers, it's actually kind of hard to come up with a referent. I came up with a couple. If you're ever go to like an official track, I'm not talking about the park, the field out at King George, I'm talking about an actual running track. It's 2.5 times around the track. It's about a 15-minute walk. I think it's about half the lagoon run. Somewhere around half the lagoon run is a kilometer. Okay? All right, now the most important thing for us is we want to learn how to convert these things. So we have some conversions here. There's 3 that you need to memorize, okay? I'm going to put them in this powerful red box here. So one thing you just need to memorize is that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. You must memorize that. Another one you must memorize is that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And the final one you need to memorize is that 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. Now I'm going to show you a method for converting units, and if you know these 3, it's actually all you need. But you can also think of this as the opposite way. I'll write them down here. I don't think this is important, but some people like to use this. If 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, then 1 meter is how many kilometers? Well, if 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, then 1 meter is only 1/1000th of a kilometer, and 1/1000th of a kilometer is the same as 0.001 kilometers. Do you know how I know how many zeros to go here? I think of my place values. This first 0 is in the 10ths spot. This second 0 is in the 100ths spot. This 1 is in the 1000ths spot. So this is 1/1000th, and that's what we have here, 1/1000th. Okay, if a meter is 100 centimeters, then 1 centimeter is how much of a meter? 1/100th of a meter. 1/100. Okay, 0.10ths, hundredths. So there you go, 1/100th of a meter. And the last one, if 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, then 1 millimeter is 1/10 of a centimeter. So that's 0.1, because that's in the 10th spot, centimeters. Okay, if this confuses you over here, this is really all you need to know in the red box here. 3 last things I guess I'll write down. Again, you don't have to memorize these ones, but actually these ones will make your life a little bit easier. Okay, what if we wanted to see how many centimeters there are in a kilometer? Well, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, and each meter has 100 centimeters. So what would you do with the 1,000 and the 100? You could multiply them, and that would tell you how many centimeters there are in a kilometer. So that equals 100,000 centimeters. 1 kilometer is 100,000 centimeters. Again, you don't have to memorize this, but it is kind of helpful sometimes. What if we wanted to go from kilometers all the way to millimeters? Well, every kilometer has 1,000 meters. Every meter has 100 centimeters, and every centimeter has 10 millimeters. So you'd end up with 1 million millimeters. So when you walk 1 kilometer, you can really impress someone and say, I walked 1 million millimeters. Very impressive. And the last one, what if we wanted to switch meters to millimeters? Well, 1 meter is 100 centimeters, and each centimeter is 10 millimeters. So 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. Okay, so lots of stuff to write down here, but it's the red box I really need you to memorize. Okay? All right, let's do some questions. So the first question is, choose the correct unit. Meters, centimeters, kilometers, millimeters. A school bus is approximately 13, well, it's not kilometers, that'd be huge. It's not millimeters. It's not centimeters, so it must be meters. Yeah, you could get about 13 meter sticks along a bus. Thickness of an iPad, okay, that's really small. Is it centimeters or is it millimeters? Well, thickness of an iPad, could you stack 9 dimes up to get that, or would you stack up 9 fingers to get that? That'd be dimes. See how it's referent? So it's millimeters, because that's my referent for millimeters. A marathon endurance running race is 42.2. Okay, this is a long race. It's not millimeters, it's not centimeters. That'd be quite a race. You'd be over before you started. Meters, well, that's more like a sprint. 42 meter sticks, you could run that in seconds. 42.2 kilometers is a long race. By the way, in the book, your book, it says 42.3. That's wrong. It's 42.2. The new pencil was 19.4. Well, that's pretty small too. Would it be centimeters or millimeters? Could you get 19 dimes along a pencil or 19 fingers? That might be a long pencil, but I think that's actually centimeters. Okay, convert the following. 3.8 kilometers, we're going to switch it into meters. Okay, I'm going to show you a method that will always work. You don't have to use it. Some of you will refuse to use it, and that's fine with me. However, it might be worth learning it because I believe the science department insists you do this, especially chemistry. You could use a method which is called unit analysis. And as I said, I believe this is the way that the science department likes you to do these things. And it's a good method. It works every single time. So I will show you how it works. What you do is you start with the thing you know. I know 3.8 kilometers. It says right there. And then I always write times, and I always write a line. And then what I do is the thing that I want to change, like I don't want it to be in kilometers, I put that on the bottom. And the thing I want to change it into, which is meters, I put on the top. Okay. Now all I have to do is look at those, remember those 3 things you had to memorize? You just look to see what's the relationship between meters and kilometers. So I go back here, I go to the bottom, and I see, oh, 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So the 1 goes on the bottom, because that goes with kilometers, and the 1,000 goes on the top, because that goes with meters. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. Now all you do is you multiply across the top and divide the bottom. So before I do that though, let me show you why you put the kilometers on the bottom. Because if you have 1 kilometers in the numerator position and 1 kilometers in the denominator position, guess what happens to them? They cancel. So all you're left with is meters. Great. So all we have to do is go 3.8 times 1,000 and then divide by 1. Well, dividing by 1 does nothing. So just 3.8 times 1,000. If you know how to multiply by tens and 100 and thousands and stuff like that, you know just to move the decimal 3 spots to the right. If you don't know how to do that, pick up your calculator and do it. I do know how to do it, so I'm just going to do that. So you get the answer 3,800. Don't forget to put the units. What's the only unit left? Meters. So that is my answer. Okay, they're all like that. If you found that confusing, once you see a few more, I think you'll get it. So we write down the number we want, 450. We write down the number we want to change, so 452 millimeters. Always put times, always put a line. The thing you want to get rid of, the millimeters, you put in the bottom. The thing you want to change to, centimeters, you put on top. Look back in our red box and figure out what's the relationship between millimeters and centimeters. The relation between millimeters and centimeters is 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. Notice the 1 does not always go on the bottom. It's easier when it goes on the bottom, but it doesn't always work. So please do not always put the 1 on the bottom. You'll get half the questions wrong. In this case, what you'd be doing, well, first of all, we can cancel out those millimeters, so we know what we have left is centimeters, and that's exactly what we want. So what you'd be doing is 452 times 1, well, that's just 452, and then divided by 10. If you know how to divide by 10, you move the decimal 1 to the left this time. If you don't know how to divide by 10, get your calculator and divide. You will get 45.2 centimeters. All right, let's keep going. 33 meters, we're changing it to millimeters. Okay, 33 meters times. Now, you could do this. You could say, I'm going to put meters here and millimeters on top. But if you've only memorized the red box, which I said you only had to, you'll see there's no meters to millimeters. So if you've memorized these 3 down here, you could go straight to the answer right now. But let's say you haven't. You've only memorized these 3 here because you don't have the greatest memory, like me. So what you could do in that case is we could go to an intermediate one first. So rather than going meters straight to millimeters, why don't we go from meters to, what is a relationship we know? We know the relationship between meters and centimeters, which will get us closer to millimeters. How many centimeters are in a meter? Well, if you go back and look, 1 meter is 100 centimeters. But we don't want it to be in centimeters. So far what we've done is we've gotten rid of the meters, but now it's in centimeters. So you know what you do? You multiply again. What do we have to get rid of this time? The centimeters. What do we want it to switch into? Millimeters. Great. If we were to do that, that would get rid of our centimeters. But wait a minute. What is the relationship between centimeters and millimeters? Well, if you look back on the list, the red box, you'll see that 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. Hey, now we're good to go. We've got 33 times 100, divided by 1 makes no difference, times 10, and divided by 1 makes no difference. So just 33 times 100 times 10. If you know how to multiply by those things, you know just to add 3 zeros. If you don't, get your calculator going. So 33,000 millimeters is your answer. Okay, 1,820,000 centimeters times, we want to switch it into kilometers. Well, we can't switch it straight to kilometers, so why don't we switch it first to, so put centimeters in the bottom, can't go straight to kilometers unless you've memorized the extra conversions, but in the red box we would need to do a intermediate step. Why don't we change centimeters to meters first, and then we'll change our meters to kilometers. That will work. We can do that. How many centimeters in a meter? 1 meter, if you look in the red box, 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And if you look in the red box, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So you're going to take this big number and multiply by 1. That does nothing. Divide by 100, which takes care of 2 zeros. Multiply by 1, which does nothing. Divide by 1,000, which takes away 3 more zeros, or moves it over 3 spots, I guess. Or you could do it with your calculator. You'll end up with the answer 18.2 kilometers. Because, remember, these will be canceled out, these will be canceled out, you'll be left with kilometers. So we are finished that question. Alright, last sort of question is you're going to add some stuff here. To add them, you need to get the same units before you can add. So you could change them all to centimeters, you could change them all to millimeters, you could change them all to meters. Which one should we do? Well, in this particular question, it tells you what you want to end up with. So why don't we change them all to centimeters? So this one's already good, 623. We need to change this 1800 millimeters into centimeters. Good news, this is one that the relationship is right in the red box. If we're going millimeters to centimeters, look it up, you'll see that 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. First of all, millimeters are gone. So all you have to do is multiply by 1, and then divide by 10. And if you do that, you'll get 180 centimeters. Okay, so that's good. Now we need to change our 12 meters. 12 meters times meters on the bottom. Can we go straight from meters to centimeters in the red box? Yes, we can. The red box tells us that 1 meter is 100 centimeters, so you end up with 1,200 centimeters. So now we can add these things. We have 623 centimeters, 180 centimeters, 1,200 centimeters, 3, 10 carry the 1, 7, 8, 10 carry the 1, 2,003 centimeters is our final answer. Last one. Gonna add these three things. We want them all in meters, so we got to switch all of them this time. Okay, 13.2 kilometers times, good news, we can go straight from kilometers to meters because 1 meter is 1,000, sorry, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So these are gone, which leaves you with meters. I forgot to cross out those M's. And if you multiply 13.2 times 1,000, you get 13200 meters. 280 centimeters times, you can also change centimeters straight to meters because we know 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So you're dividing this time, right? You're going 280 times 1, which is 280, and then divide it by 100. You should get 2.8 meters. And finally, we're switching 444,000 millimeters. 444,000 millimeters. If you've only memorized the red box, you can't do this in one step. You cannot go from millimeters to meters, but you can go millimeters to centimeters first. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. And then we want to switch, because so far all we've done is switched it into centimeters. We want to end up in meters, so we better switch our centimeters to meters. And we know that 1 meter is 100 centimeters. That should work. That gets rid of the centimeters. Great, our answer will be in meters. So take 444,000 times 1, does nothing. Divide by 10, good. Times 1, does nothing. Divide by 100, you should end up with 444. Okay, we're ready to go. We're going to add these three things together. 13,200 plus 2.8. Now be careful, you do not write that like that, do you? No, you do not, because the decimal point is always at the end here, and you want your decimal points to line up. So 2.8 and 444. If you want, you can add zeros here and here if it helps you to understand how to do this. So that's 8. Decimal point stays in the same spot when you add. 6, 4, 2 and 4 is 6, 3, 1, and our answer is in meters, and we are finished. Alright, that is the end of the metric system. Next time we'll look at the imperial system. Boo! The imperial system. But we still have to do it. Have a good day, everyone.
I still owe money to the money, to the money I owe. I never thought about love when I thought about home. I still owe money to the money, to the money I owe. The floors are falling out from everybody I know. I'm on a blood buzz. Yes, I